Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. The NBA is back, which means it's time to shoot your shot on Hard Rock Bet. Your home for hoops action all season long. Need a little help with your first bet? Check out the streaks heating up inside the Hard Rock Bet Stats Hub. You can find live odds to bet on all these streaks right in the Hard Rock Bet app. The Hornets have failed to cover the spread in 10 straight games as home favorites. The Cavs have covered the spread as a road underdog against the Eastern Conference 8 times in a row. The Cavs are also on a 7-game winning streak against the Atlantic Division. The Orlando Magic have covered the spread in 4 straight games as home favorites. If you haven't tried your first bet on Hard Rock Bet, there's still plenty of time for you to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you get not only your winnings, but $150 in extra bonus bets. Plus, all week on Hard Rock Bet, you can get an NBA parlay boost for the games. There's new promos every day. You can boost your same-game parlay or your same-game parlay max so your bet pays extra winnings. And on Wednesday, if you're already betting on the Hard Rock Sportsbook app, you know what that means. It's the last day to use your legendary rewards drops. Open up the app today. You could have a bonus bet or who knows what's in there. More drops every Thursday. The rewards and promos are nonstop. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today to make your first deposit. All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to a brand new NBA season. So much has changed. We have Kevin Durant wearing a Houston Rockets jersey. We have the young, up-and-coming Oklahoma City Thunder now wearing championship rings. We have LeBron James not playing on opening night, not just for the Lakers, but in general. This is a guy who's been playing on opening night for as long as I can remember. And I'm recording from Denver in Colorado as we moved this summer to get to some skiing, but that's a story for another day. I'm very, very excited to break this all down. That Houston-Oklahoma City game was incredibly interesting. And then you know that meme where you have all the dragons and they're looking all mean and angry, and then you slide over and there's kind of the goofy, like cartoonish looking dragon? That was the Los Angeles Lakers tonight, as we saw 3 what appeared to be elite basketball teams and one that stuck out like a sore thumb. We have so much to get into on all 4 of these teams. We're going to break it all down. And then at the tail end of the show tonight, we're going to be taking some questions from the audience with Jackson. So drop your questions in the chat. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. At the tail end of the show, any thoughts that you guys have from tonight's games, we can dig in a little bit further. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. It's also super helpful if you leave a rating and a review on that front. Jackson's doing incredible work on our social media feeds on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Make sure you guys follow us there throughout the season for additional content. And then last but not least, we're going to be doing weekly mailbags, starting with the mailbag this Friday. If you want to get questions into those mailbags, drop them on our full episodes on YouTube in the comments. Just write mailbag with a colon, write your question. We'll get to them on Fridays throughout the season. All right, let's talk some basketball. What a dominant debut from the Golden State Warriors. I thought they thoroughly outclassed the Lakers in basically every facet of the game, other than the fact that the Lakers have Luka Doncic. And that Luka Doncic is amazing. We'll get to Luka later. I rooted for that guy last year, and there wasn't a single moment where he looked like that. And that's one singular piece of upside that may or may not amount to something optimistic for the Lakers to take away from tonight. But if you replace him with a regular star ball handler, like let's say you just had injured Anthony Davis and that was 40-year-old LeBron that was out there, the Warriors win that game by 30. The Warriors outplayed the Lakers in every single facet of the game. I thought their intensity from the opening tip in terms of their ball pressure and physicality was better to start the game. I thought their backside rotations off of their double teams and just in general how scrappy they were in the middle of the floor, especially underneath the basket, was way better than what we were seeing from the Lakers on the other end of the floor. They were forcing turnovers on deep post catches from DeAndre Ayton, swarming Vando on his drives, forcing a ton of turnovers, getting out in transition off of them. I thought in general, they were, as a team, much sharper in transition. I thought they ran the floor harder off of misses and off of makes, constantly catching the Lakers jogging, but also on the other end of the floor, getting back and preventing those same opportunities for the Lakers on the other end of the floor. I thought they shot the ball better than the Lakers. I thought they rebounded the ball better than the Lakers. I know it's just one game, and I know LeBron didn't play, but I just thought the Warriors looked like a much better basketball team than the Lakers did tonight. We're going to dig into some of the specifics having to do with that matchup as well. I think that plays a role. But I want to start with some of the specifics that we saw from Jimmy Butler and Jonathan Kuminga, because those two guys, in a lot of ways, in a debut, demonstrated some of the specific things that the Warriors need to go their direction in order for them to compete for a championship this year. So let's start with this idea of the debate that we've been having all summer long about what kind of player the Warriors should be going after if they make some sort of all-in trade this year, whether that involves Kuminga or it doesn't. In those conversations, we discussed, should it be like an athletic wing who's more of like kind of what Andrew Wiggins was for the team in the past? Or should they look for a scoring guard? Or just in general, a scoring archetype, kind of like what Jordan Poole was for the Warriors when they won the title. And a huge factor in determining which direction they should go on that front, if they do look to make a trade this year at some point, is how does Jimmy Butler look as a scorer? Because there was a lot of basketball after the trade, even though the Warriors were winning, where Jimmy wasn't necessarily bringing a bunch of scoring pop. But then, last 3 games of the season, tons of scoring pop. Play-in game, tons of scoring pop. First game against Houston before the tailbone injury, tons of scoring pop. We had this like 5-game sample where we're like, oh shit, playoff Jimmy. This is the guy that is going to help push this team over the top into championship contention, right? But it was a small sample. Coming back from the tailbone injury, he wasn't able to secure a win against Minnesota without Steph. And so there were some question marks surrounding that. And I thought that was an electric debut from Jimmy Butler as just that secondary offensive force off of Steph Curry. He consistently was finding matchups that he liked off of some of the switching that the Lakers were doing. Really liked Gabe Vincent, really liked Jake LaRavia. You could tell that Jimmy in particular just had some comfortability isoing Gabe, just getting over his left shoulder for little bank shots and drawing fouls with quick aggressive moves. The big thing with Jimmy is he brings a dynamic to the Warriors that they haven't had in years past, and that is the ability to grift your way to the foul line. I've been talking about this forever. It's a skill. It's something that it comes with kind of a polarizing discussion surrounding the role of free throws kind of like interfering with basketball games. But the truth of the matter is these guys are all over the league. They're skilled at getting to the foul line. I root for a couple of them on the Lakers. Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic are both great at it. You know, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's great at it. Jalen Brunson is great at it. And one of the guys that was great at it is Jimmy Butler. And, you know, there's this idea that free throws are just like handed down by the NBA as like some sort of gift to your team. That's not how it works. The way that it works is you either earn trips to the foul line on one end of the floor, and then on the other end of the floor, you either keep a team off the foul line or you send them to the foul line, and that's what determines your free throw disparity. Nothing else. Basketball games. Basketball and the way it's being played on both ends of the floor is what leads to the free throw totals that you see. And bringing Jimmy Butler in has given the Warriors a dynamic that they haven't had in the past, which is the ability to slow the game down by working his way to the foul line, which comes with all sorts of additional benefits. In addition to just points, a huge part of how you get a 30 ball out of Jimmy, it also allows you to set your defense. It allows you to get more game plan notes in, possession to possession. You have a chance to talk and to think about how you're going to guard on the next possession. There are all of these trickle-down benefits. It can disrupt the rhythm of your opponent. They're not getting up and down the floor. They're now stopping and going down to the block to get ready to rebound. Jimmy Butler is just really good at using pump fakes, weird driving angles, obviously the histrionics around the basket that all the foul grifters around the league use. And what did he have, like 16 free throw attempts tonight? That was a huge part of his ability to manufacture points for the Warriors tonight. Something we're going to have our eye on with the Warriors all season long is Jimmy's ability to score the basketball. And he just did that to a great extent tonight. A super optimistic debut for Jimmy on that front. Jonathan Kuminga, the biggest debate surrounding the Warriors over the last couple of years. And one of the things that I've talked about is the reason why things haven't panned out for Jonathan in years past. It comes down to two things. One, he struggles sometimes in read and react basketball, which is a pivotal part of playing for the Golden State Warriors. You have to make quick decisions with the basketball off of the advantages that Steph Curry creates, right? And then secondly, he has struggled to consistently knock down catch and shoot jump shots. And we saw a little bit of that up and down nature in the first half. He had a couple shots where, he's taking a jab step three out of the corner when there's time on the shot clock, or forcing the action inside and getting blocked from behind because he's not reading the floor. A little classic up and down Jonathan Kuminga type of game in the first half. But they come out in the second half and they start spamming three-man action, him, Steph, and Draymond off the right side of the floor. And it presents all these like easy reads for Jonathan. Like, okay, Steph's cutting off of this one. I'm going to just relocate to the top of the key. Oh, bam, the ball's in my hands. I'm wide open. Take a catch and shoot three, knock it down. Okay, this time I'm slipping out of the screen as Steph is going up towards the top, and I'm getting open along the baseline. Boom, pass, finish with the right hand at the rim over Rui Hachimura. The kick out on the left corner off of actually it was in the right corner with Luka contesting off of one of those drives from Steph Curry. He was just playing Warriors basketball. He's going to have his opportunities to attack one-on-one. He had an opportunity in the second half to go at Luka's chest, and he got over his left shoulder for a little hook shot. Especially in bench groups, he's going to have opportunities to be more aggressive. But in order for him to be a functional player with the starters, especially, but in general, just as a large role player for the Warriors, he's got to hit his open catch and shoot threes, and he's got to make the simple reads. I'm driving to the basket. I draw Ayton, or I can't remember if it was Hayes or Ayton at that point in time. Draw that. I think it was Hayes. Draw him in help. There's Al Horford right there. Drop it off. No need to force it. Just make the easy read that's right there in front of you, right? I thought Kuminga was fantastic in that second half. Yes, he was getting cooked by Luka, but I think that was more of a Luka thing. Luka has done that to the best. Like, this version of Luka has done that to the best defensive players in the world. I watched him 2 years ago do it to Jaden McDaniels in the conference finals. Is one of the certainly a better perimeter defender than Jonathan Kuminga, right? So, like, that is what it is. All you can do is be physical and make him work. Luka's, one of the 2 or 3 best players in the world, right? But when it comes to the job that he has on offense for this group, I thought he executed it extremely well in that second half, leading the Warriors to pull away. But he healed. One of the things we're going to consistently talk about tonight in this matchup is the difference in the foot speed between the two teams. And Buddy was getting a lot of opportunities to attack, both like with someone sprinting at him, where he could show the ball and quick relocate, and get another shot up, or run up the key, relocating out of the corner as someone's driving along the baseline or cutting along the baseline. He was getting good looks, and he had 5 of them tonight. Buddy talked about in media day that he shot the ball better this summer than he ever has. And he expected to shoot the ball well this season, comes right out, he's talking shit to Luka, hits 5 threes, a bunch of big ones in the second half that paid off those classic kind of Golden State sequences, and the Warriors end up chewing up and spitting out the Lakers tonight. I've been super fascinated by this concept. I was texting with Jackson about it during the game. The change from Luka to Anthony Davis is so bizarre in the dynamic in this particular matchup between these two teams. And it's kind of a classic example of how basketball is more art than science. I don't think anybody would disagree that Luka Doncic is a better basketball player than Anthony Davis. He just is. I mean, what did he have? Like 41, 13, and 7 or whatever it is he had tonight. Like, Luka is one of the greatest offensive players in the game today. He is a better basketball player than Anthony Davis. But he fundamentally changes the athletic profile of this Lakers roster. One of the things that happened in the previous years in that stretch there, 2023, 2024, 2025, before the Anthony Davis trade, is the Lakers kind of dominated the matchup with the Warriors. And the reason why is they had Anthony Davis on the back line, roaming off of whoever it was, Draymond, Kevon Looney, underneath the basket, which gave the Lakers perimeter players a ton of leeway on the perimeter to overplay, whether that would be top locking to force guys into back cuts or just in general denying off the ball, overplaying pull-up shooters, overplaying Steph himself when he'd be on the three-point line. And Anthony Davis was the type of rangy player on the back line that could cover tons of ground and use his length to completely shut off the rim. And it just consistently ended in mediocre shooters, guys like Kuminga, guys like Gary Payton, guys like Draymond Green having to take threes. And it was a matchup that skewed heavily towards the Lakers. You swap Luka for Anthony Davis, and all of a sudden, those perimeter players don't have that same leeway. If they get back cut, there's nobody back there. Ayton all night long was head in the clouds. Just had no idea. Like, he was floating around the perimeter and was out of position to help on back cuts like a dozen times throughout this game. They do not have anywhere near the backline defense, especially with LeBron James out of the picture. LeBron and Anthony Davis, the two of them roaming on the backline, totally different matchup than DeAndre Ayton and Luka Doncic and Rui Hachimura roaming around on that backline. And I thought it was super interesting because one of the advantages that the Warriors have had consistently, even in the matchups where the Lakers had done some winning, the Warriors were a faster team. They were faster on the perimeter. This concept of perimeter speed is something we talked a lot about throughout the season last year for the Warriors. So when they get in their blender and it's ball and player movement and guys are sprinting off of screens and doing all the stuff that they do, when there's not an Anthony Davis to clear up all the mistakes on the back line, they are just chewing up and spitting this team out. And by the way, this is not just an opening night take. Those of you guys who followed the show last year, you'll remember after that big showdown, that big game late regular season, the first one where it was like Luka, LeBron, and Austin versus the healthy Warriors, the Warriors chewed them up and spit them out in that game too. And if you guys remember, I came on the show after that game and I was like, ooh, I don't like this matchup for the Lakers. The Warriors just look substantially faster than them at every position. And we're talking about a Warriors team that's got 4 dudes that are over 37. And it's part of it is Steph. Part of it is the fact that Draymond does play very fast for a big. And part of it is this is a Warriors team that has a depth of role player talent off of their stars that all know how to play in this system. And I was just super fascinated by that tonight as they just chewed up and spit out the Lakers. And so the Lakers go on a late game run, right? Warriors have a couple turnovers. Steph misses a tough step back 3 over Gabe. Austin gets a couple of buckets on the other end of the floor. All of a sudden, I think they cut it to 6, right? But right after that, the Warriors immediately regained control. Lakers had a really good defensive possession where they played all the actions right, and the ball ended up in Draymond Green's hands in the right corner. And, sometimes in order to shut down those actions, you got to concede something. They were conceding that corner 3 to Draymond, and to Draymond's credit, he stepped up and he knocked it down. Lakers go right down. They post up Luka Doncic on the right, I think it was against Buddy. I can't remember who it was, but he's posting up on the right side. He draws a double team, swing, ball goes to Gabe in the left corner, and Steph Curry makes an unbelievable defensive rotation out to the corner and blocks Gabe Vincent on that 3. I thought Steph was great all night defensively, competing in and out of actions. He had, again, a couple buckets that Luka gave him, but that's just Luka being Luka. Steph obviously is the engine that's running everything they're doing offensively, makes a huge defensive play. Then they go down to the other end, and Jimmy isos Luka Doncic, beats him off the dribble, gets a little reverse layup, and the game is over. And you can see the formula for the Warriors, right? Like, you need Steph to be Steph. You need Jimmy Butler to provide that legitimate secondary scoring via shot making, attacking in the post, and getting his way to the foul line. And then you either need winning basketball from Kuminga, like we saw in that second half, or a player in a trade that does that that provides that form of winning impact. From there, it's the system and the culture. It's the depth of role player talent. You get Will Richard coming in and contributing the way that he did defensively. You get the Brandon Pajemski just scrappiness all over the floor and hitting big shots every once in a while. You get just the depth. This is a team that consistently every year has like somewhere between 12 and 14 guys that can step in and play. And like we haven't seen DeAnthony Melton. We know what Moses Moody can do when he's healthy. It's this Warriors team, I'm not quite as high on them as some of the projections I've seen. Like I've seen win projections as high as 57 wins. I don't think they're going to get to 57 wins, but it's easy to see how they can get to 52, 53 wins in the stacked Western Conference because they have a formula. And again, the big swings that we got to keep an eye on, Jimmy's secondary scoring, Jonathan Kuminga playing winning basketball, knocking down open shots, being able to play that read and react ball. And if he doesn't do that, what they're able to get in a trade for him from there. Quickly on the Lakers before we move on to the next game. I thought they stuck out like a sore thumb tonight in tonight's competition. You saw a Houston Rockets team that is huge and physical and getting up in your jersey and beating you up on the glass and posting you up with Alperen Şengün and driving right into your face with Amen Thompson and just bringing this overwhelming physical element as they went into the champ's house on trophy night and came this close to beating them. And then you have the Thunder, who are down their second best player, shot 6 for 26 on unguarded catch and shoot jump shots. We'll talk more about that game in a minute. But they still win the game on the strength of an unbelievable second half from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as an offensive player, a dominant defensive effort, scrapping, forcing 24 turnovers, getting 26 points off of those turnovers. And then you go to the Warriors. They're up in the Lakers jersey from the opening tip. They're flying around in rotation. They're being physical. They're sharp in transition. Their stars are locked in and competing, and they're being physical. And then you see the Lakers, who aside from Luka Doncic, I don't think they had a single player who won his matchup tonight. It just was incredibly disappointing. On the one hand, I'm not overly surprised. Those of you guys who listened to yesterday's show, I talked about how coming out of camp, the Lakers looked to me like a mediocre basketball team. They look like a good offense, not a great offense, and they look like a bad defense. Not an okay defense. They look like a bad defense all throughout camp. First of all, they offer no defensive pressure at all. There's nobody that they play against that they make uncomfortable. They're not in your jersey. They're not applying physicality. They're not bringing any of that intensity on that end of the floor at all. They're jogging back in transition and giving up lob dunks because no one's picking up the rim or no one's stopping the ball. They're getting back cut all over the floor because guys aren't paying attention to man and ball. It was so incredibly sloppy. You see so many things. We talked about swing factors, right? Like swing factors like Jimmy Butler scoring the basketball or Jonathan Kuminga making quality reads or knocking down catch and shoot jump shots. We're seeing, can DeAndre Ayton score on the roll? Well, he was catching in traffic and just getting stripped. Well, can Jared Vanderbilt provide some sort of offensive pop? Well, he still can't knock down a catch and shoot jump shot. And in the second half in particular was literally just like driving into the teeth of the defense and turning the ball over. He looked extremely limited. Marcus Smart, there's like, it was kind of funny watching the antics contest between Marcus Smart and Draymond Green throughout the game. But like Marcus can't knock down an open catch and shoot shot. And he's not doing enough on the ball defensively to really disrupt high-level ball handlers. That's something I've seen throughout all preseason. It's depressing, man. I saw my friend Damon Rangula talking about how LeBron looked disengaged on the sideline. I don't know. Like, this has the potential to get ugly here. Now, the schedule gets lighter. They have Minnesota on Friday. But then after that, the next 13 games are pretty light on what we would consider to be top-tier championship contenders. I think Oklahoma City, they play Minnesota again, and then they have Oklahoma City on the road. But other than that, they're playing a bunch of middle-tier and bottom-tier teams. And so maybe they'll be able to pull this together, and they'll be able to get some wins. And there's a huge upside, which is Luka. Like, I want to be clear, like, that what we saw from Luka tonight, we never even came remotely close to seeing that last year. Not even a little bit. He never moved like that. He never had that like consistent downhill pressure The short-range shot making, that's something I had my eye on in preseason. He was 1 for 7 on floaters and mid-range jump shots in preseason. He had to hit like 8 or 9 of them today. He was cooking the Warriors from the short to mid-range. Throw in the crazy kickouts. Still has no roll man chemistry with Ayton on the lobs. He's got to figure that piece out. It's so much more natural with him, with Jackson Hayes. That's something that him and Ayton are going to have to figure out. But like, Luka was amazing. And that's your big silver lining that you try to pull away from this, is if you can right the ship with some of these other guys on the roster, you have the dude that I think is the second best basketball player in the world on your team. And so there's a whole lot of upside with Luka and what he brings to the table. But beyond that, it was just an incredibly disappointing debut for the Lakers. Above and beyond anything having to do with individual talent, there's some talent limitations here. I don't expect Rui to be able to post up Draymond or Jimmy Butler without turning the ball over or fumbling it away. The Warriors in general are a swarming team that are going to cause some issues for some of the lesser offensive players for the Lakers. I don't necessarily expect them to be a team that's going to be dominant defensively, but they just also don't look sharp. And we talked about this yesterday, but like, if you're already a step slow athletically, you can't also be a step slow mentally. You have to be ahead of things with your reads on defense. You have to be ahead of things with your execution on defense, because you're already giving up an inch in the form of the athleticism advantage that the opponent's going to have most nights. That definitely not an inspiring debut from the Lakers. But again, Luka looks amazing. I thought Luka was really good on defense for the most part. He got cooked by Jimmy on that last possession, but I thought his rotations were sharp. He had some help side plays at the rim where he got blocks or deflections or good contests. He had like a post-up stop against Al Horford. He had a really nice ISO stop against Steph along the left wing late in the game when the Lakers were going on their run. A lot of really impressive stuff from Luka, and then just all bad down the list from there. Austin has kind of become a player that can struggle against physical, swarming, athletic defenses. I thought Austin struggled throughout the night. He just seemed like he was over-penetrating and getting swarmed and not finding easy kick-out reads. His shot-making wasn't there the way it usually was. Shot-making wasn't there in preseason either, especially from the three-point line. But, like, again, once you get off Luka, a lot of depressing on the Lakers front. Again, we'll have more thoughts on this as we get. I'm going to watch both of these games again tomorrow morning. So if I have any additional takeaways from there, I'll share them in tomorrow night's show. But that's all I have on the Lakers Warriors from now. Let's move on to Rockets Thunder. What an incredibly bizarre basketball game. We had 112 missed shots, 36 turnovers, 28 offensive rebounds, a half dozen missed clutch free throws, including some from both KD and Shai. Shai had several. But the game ends up coming down to one single ISO in double overtime along the left wing with Shai on the ball, KD guarding him. And I thought it was the right move by KD in that spot, in the sense that he was the only guy other than Amen Thompson, who was hurt at that point, who had some success guarding Shai. So KD guards him on the inbounds, and I thought Shai made an incredibly smart play. In general, Shai was fantastic in the second half, attacking some very complex and very aggressive and mixed up coverages from Houston, but he made his smartest play of the game there at the end of double overtime to win it. So for starters, at the beginning of that possession when KD's guarding Shai, he's super aggressive, which was different than how he had guarded Shai earlier in the game on his one-on-one possessions. Earlier in the game, he had been giving Shai space, offering contests with his length. And he had actually forced Shai into some misses because he's got some long-ass arms and KD's hard to shoot over. But on this possession, KD came out pressuring him, like kind of gambling, reaching, a little bit out of control. And so the smart move from Shai was he didn't try to shoot. He knew KD was being overly aggressive, so he threw him a pump fake, spun over his left shoulder and pumped. KD followed that chain of aggression into an aggressive contest. And so because Shai pump faked, all he had to do was just throw up a shot, and he earned his way to the foul line that won the game. And then to add insult to injury, KD fouled out on the play, which removed him as a final possession option. I actually thought Jabari Smith got a half-decent look over the top of Jalen Williams over there on the left corner. But it was long, and the Thunder got the win. Shai solved the problem tonight. Finished that game with 35 points, which is insane considering he had a relatively empty box score a few minutes into the third quarter. And the Rockets threw one hell of a defensive punch. They had Amen Thompson on him one-on-one. And again, Amen provides like a combination of size and athleticism defensively that is different than just about anyone else in the league. Jackson and I were talking about it before the show. Like, I think he might be the fastest, like, big wing that I've ever seen. Like, fastest player that's over 6'6" and that has long arms. In ball screens, they were blitzing him every single time to get the ball out of his hands. Then they also mixed in a ton of zone, especially when Steven Adams was on the floor. Basically, everything was geared towards getting the ball out of Shai's hands and forcing his teammates to quickly process and kick to shooters. And another thing, to Houston's credit here, I thought they did a great job rotating and like making those kick out threes off of the double teams contested or congested and feeling rushed. Oklahoma City also didn't shoot well. I want to be clear. There were lots of great looks that didn't go down. They were 6 for 26 from unguarded threes in this game, especially a few in the second half from Lou Dort that were like complete standstill, gotta knock them down types of shots. But I do want to give Houston credit here for their defense. I thought they played a great game. And early on there, about halfway through the game, it was about as discombobulated as I've ever seen Shai, at least in a long time. But Shai just slowly but surely figured it out. Started by hunting every transition opportunity he could get. So every time that there was a miss or a turnover and Shai got an opportunity to attack before Houston had their defense set, he either quickly hit a gap or he'd catch a quick like step-up screen in transition and hit that gap before Houston could really congest things at the rim. And he started finding those little seams to get all the way to the rim. And then against the zone, he found several things that worked. He started just taking ball screens off the top and riding that into the middle of the floor. He was able to get some better kickouts from there. To his credit, he kept trusting his teammates all game long as they were sending the kitchen sink at him, even though the shots weren't falling. And by the way, say what you want about the shots not falling. Cason Wallace and Chet Holmgren each hit massive threes down the stretch of that. Cason hit 2 of them. Massive threes down the stretch because Shai kept trusting them, even though the shots had not been falling. He also started ISOing the top guy. These are some little tricks he found to stop having to deal with the doubles. Like late in regulation, I'm not calling for a screen. I know it's Amen Thompson, but I want my one-on-one. And he got to that little step back from 18 feet there on the left side that tied the game and sent it to OT. Against the zone. In the zone, when they'd have an occupied corner, meaning a shooter in the strong side corner and a shooter on the opposite wing, if he was dribbling against that top guy, they weren't doubling. They weren't at first. They weren't doubling off the corner or off of that top. They would double him if he drove. Like if he beat the man to the middle and drove, they would pinch in from the top, from the opposite wing. And yeah, if he drove down the left side, they'd pinch in. But if he just kind of went one-on-one for a pull-up jump shot against the top man in the zone, he was able to go one-on-one. And so he'd kind of just work over to Jabari Smith's side and push a little bit over to the sideline so that that other top man wouldn't come over so far. And then he would just dribble at his chest and go to that textbook step back or that little snatch back dribble that he goes to. And he just kept getting to shots that he could hit over the top. And his shot making was unbelievable. The shot that he hit to send it to OT over Amen Thompson was insane. Great contest from Amen. Hit a pull-up 3 over Amen on the one on the right wing. The one that actually was the play where Amen Thompson, I'm hoping it was just cramps that he was dealing with. Hopefully nothing more serious because he left the game at that point. But just unbelievable shot making. He somehow managed to find like a legit scoring rhythm against a defense that was designed to get the ball out of his hands. I was incredibly impressed. Eventually, Houston started doubling him in the zone. That was what happened in overtime. They were straight up doubling him in the zone. And that started creating those openings for those last 2 threes that Cason Wallace and Chet Holmgren hit. Credit to those guys. They just kept shooting and they knocked him down. So, like, in other words, Shai was presented with a bizarre, massive lineup that was guarding him in a variety of really weird and aggressive ways. And he just kept going at them until he figured it out. I couldn't be more impressed. It was a night where a lot went wrong for Oklahoma City. Like Chet gives you a burst of scoring to start the game. Really impressive little burst. He hits like a a three on the wing. It's like a turnaround, tough little right shoulder fade over Kevin Durant. Hits a little mid-range jump shot in the middle of the zone. I think he had like 17 in his first shift or 15 in his first shift. Chet came out guns blazing. But other than that, they didn't get any sort of consistent shot creation from anybody that wasn't Shai the rest of the night. J-Dub is obviously out, still dealing with the wrist injury. They shot 6 for 26 on unguarded catch and shoot jump shots, according to Synergy. And you somehow win because Shai pulls 35 points literally out of nowhere against a defense he had no business putting that sort of scoring output against. Just tip of the cap to Shai. Unbelievable preseason, and just followed it up with an unbelievable debut. A lot of other good for Oklahoma City. I thought their defense was super impressive all night. They were physically outmatched basically at every position because of that huge Houston lineup, and they just battled. One of the underrated pieces of this game was like Houston did a ton of damage on the offensive glass, but then Oklahoma City ended up controlling the offensive glass late in the game. Got a bunch of extra possessions and extra points out of that sort of thing. They were scrapping. They forced 24 turnovers and got 26 points off of them. That's classic Oklahoma City basketball right there. I know Lu Dort had a rough shooting night, and he had a bad foul against Kevin Durant, obviously, late in the game. But I thought one of the most underrated storylines of this game was just Lu Dort denying Kevin Durant the basketball. Like, KD was sharp with his attacks when he had the ball, but there's a reason why he only had 23 points. Houston couldn't get the ball to him. From the opening tip, Dort was in his jersey and consistently positioning himself between the ball, like the passer, and where KD was, and just making that entry pass super difficult. He even managed to force a massive turnover late in the game that helped swing the game. And like, again, I always believe these things are connected. Kevin Durant was 0 for 4 from 3, and I thought a big part of it was the way that Lu Dort just wore down KD's base with all that physicality. Big time night from Lu Dort on the defensive end of the floor. Caruso and Kason Wallace combined for 6 steals. I even thought Shai was great defensively in this game. He brought a lot of ball pressure to start. He ended up with 2 steals and 2 blocks. I just thought he was competing really hard on that end of the floor, understanding that that's how they needed to win that game. And like, that's the thing. This is going to be how Oklahoma City is going to have to win as long as J-Dub is out. Without J-Dub, they're light on refined offensive skill. We're going to see a ton of doubling and blitzing of Shai. We're going to see a ton of zone against them. They're going to have to win with defense to transition and with guys quickly processing with ball and player movement and knocking down threes off of the attention that Shai draws. But tip of the cap to OKC, that was a hell of a way to start their title defense. Like, you get spoon-fed. Like, yeah, here's your rings. And by the way, here's one of the most talented rosters in the NBA that's starting 4 7-footers, basically. And they're going to beat the shit out of you physically all night. Let's see you try to start your title defense. And they just battled, and they just got it done. Tip of the cap to the Thunder. That was a super interesting debut for the Rockets, though. That team is going to be a problem. Again, I know KD wasn't as much of a factor tonight because of the ball denial from Dort, but I thought you saw a lot of the upside, right? Like, KD was 9 for 12 on twos. That's what happened when he was actually able to catch the ball and attack. He just never misses a mid-range jump shot when he gets a good look. He can rescue possessions with shot making and late clock situations. There was a possession late where Dort was detached from him because KD brought the ball up the floor, and Şengün actually managed to hit him on a screen, which then forced Hartenstein to step up. Easy little pocket pass to Şengün, get a bucket on the short roll. That's the kind of thing that when you're not playing Lu Dort and you're able to run more ball screen action and actually unlock Şengün as a roller, that's going to be an entirely different dynamic to this Rockets offense that we didn't get to see too much of tonight. But like, it's a little bit more complicated. Like, I did think, for all the talk about KD not getting the basketball from the Dort denials, I watched a preseason game where Houston played New Orleans, and in that game, there were some extended stretches where KD wasn't able to get the basketball, and a big part of it was it just wasn't finding its way to him as they were playing through Amen and Şengün. And so I think Udoka is going to have to do a little bit more of an intentional job to make sure that the ball finds its way to Kevin Durant more often. Again, Dort is Dort. He's going to present some problems, but I think they can do better getting the ball to KD. But I thought Şengün and Amen Thompson were both absolutely amazing. 39, 11, and 7 from Şengün. Consistently punishing the OKC smalls with post-ups. He did some damage to Chet, too, one-on-one. Did a bunch of damage to Caruso. And this is a guy who, like, did a ton of damage to Nikola Jokic in Game 7 last year, if you guys remember. But Şengün was just backing him down and protecting the basketball, getting to his left shoulder hook, following his shot when he would miss, passing well. I thought he passed well out of double teams all night. It was one of their most efficient forms of offense, was just give the ball to Şengün until someone sends a double. He showcased a three-point shot he's been working on all summer. He hit several above-the-break threes off the wings. Again, when they're running their two big lineups, that's going to be super important. When Steven Adams is operating underneath the basket as an offensive rebounder and cutter, that's going to force guys like Şengün and Amen Thompson to knock down threes, and Şengün was hitting those threes. He's going to have to be able to hit those to space the floor. He just looks poised for an all-NBA campaign. He looked like Houston's best player tonight. Unbelievable season debut for Alperen Şengün. And then Amen Thompson, again, like he was 0 for 7 from 3, and that's obviously going to be the barrier between where he is right now and where he wants to be as a player in the future. And it's going to be a spacing issue for Houston. Again, like a lot of the damage that Amen did last year was working along the baseline with Şengün around the elbows, kind of like a high-low, kind of like vertical spacing angle. That's not going to be there with Steven Adams on the floor. It's going to there was even a play where Reed Sheppard kicked the ball out of bounds in the left corner because Amen Thompson was cutting along the baseline on a play where there was no space for him to cut. So that's obviously something he'll have to work on. Like hitting shots is going to be an imperative for them this season. But other than that, I was incredibly impressed by Amen as well. Like he made SGA work all night. His recovery athleticism is completely insane. He had a chase down block on Shai on a drive that was ridiculous. He had this other play where he stopped Cason Wallace in transition. Cason's pushing the ball up the floor, and Amen's like 20 feet behind him. And Amen like just straight up sprinted and got back in front of Cason and forced him to take a retreat dribble. And I was like, this is ridiculous. His speed at the wing is unlike anything I've ever seen. But he also showed some insane upside as a slot ISO option. The ball screen stuff was mixed, hit some shots in the middle of the floor, also had some turnovers, some bad kickouts. There were some mistakes from Amen there. That's to be expected. He's being foisted into a ball handling role that's kind of above what he's capable of right now. So it's going to come with some mistakes. But down the stretch in regulation, especially with Dort denying KD, they just went to Amen Thompson one-on-one off the slot against Cason Wallace, and he was getting buckets. And like, it kind of reminds me of Ja Morant in the sense that he has this supreme first step and handle to beat the first dude off the dribble. And then he's kind of immune to spacing on the ball because he doesn't have to get all the way to the rim. He can just pop up off the ground around 5 feet, and he can hit all these little floaters and short jump shots there that make him extremely difficult to guard. Again, like down the stretch of this game, they were playing through Amen in regulation, and he was getting buckets. Again, it's going to be up and down. There's going to be mistakes. He's a young player, but like his upside is preposterous. Now, again, like it's flawed for Houston in general. Like I said, they got to find a way to keep Kevin Durant involved. That was something that was an issue dating back to preseason. They have spacing issues. Like Şengün shot the ball well, but Amen Thompson and Tari Eason got a lot of open shots that didn't go in. I think between the two of them, they were like 0 for a dozen. We saw the issues in this particular matchup. I talked before the season about how I was severely concerned about their lack of ball handling, specifically in this matchup with Oklahoma City, specifically leading to turnovers and transition problems. They gave up 26 points on 24 turnovers. So there's a lot that they have to work out. But they also clearly present real problems for everyone else. They're monstrous on the offensive glass. They have a ton of length that can cause problems for any offense. Elite on-ball defenders to throw at the best players in the world. They have 3 real matchup problems on offense. Like Şengün's a matchup problem. Amen Thompson and his ability to just ISO dudes in space, that's a problem. And Kevin Durant is Kevin freaking Durant. They're going to find a way to manufacture points. They just have a ton of talent. I don't know if they're going to be able to win the whole thing, but they just strike me as one of those teams that is going to present some real problems for a lot of teams and is at the very least a upset threat against everyone. All right, Jackson, let's get into our questions for the night.
Let's do it. What is going on? First one is going to be, what did you think of the entire NBC broadcast experience tonight?
I thought it was awesome. They kind of like kept it true to the spirit of basketball, like light on fluff, heavy on like the pomp and circumstance of the actual game, right? Like here we're going to show the national anthem. We're going to show the player introductions. Like we're getting ready to do opening tip instead of like doing some sort of quick interview or sideline report or like some sort of just random diatribe from the broadcast crew. We just got to like soak it all in, right? Like it just got to they go radio silence and we just get to listen to the whole thing. I thought the broadcast crew was great. I thought the Michael Jordan halftime thing was just like kind of funny. You could tell like I'm not the first one to this joke, but you could just tell that they literally like sat down with Michael Jordan for an hour and they're just going to cut it up into little clips throughout the season. So it's super efficient on that run, I guess. But like it just felt nostalgic and it felt like NBA hoops. And I just 10 out of 10, no notes. What were your thoughts, Jackson?
Yeah, I thought the pregame did a really good job of sort of, and a lot of people made this point online, much more celebratory of the game than some of the other broadcast partners like ESPN and TNT that have been pointed out, previously. And which is, I like those broadcasts too, to be honest. But like, I thought they was really celebratory tonight. I think Maria Taylor is just consistently great at pretty much everything she does. She was awesome tonight. I have thought Tracy McGrady's kind of hit or miss sometimes. I thought he was really good in the pregame. I love Jamal Crawford on the game. He was great on the game. It was, even though Reggie Miller is kind of a polarizing guy, and I think he's gotten better than he used to be. It did feel, I like that he was on this specifically the first game of the night because it felt it was a little bit of familiarity. Everything was new. Every other part of the broadcast was new, but he was something that we're used to hearing, and I thought that was actually valuable.
That's a great point. Yeah, like there's something about hearing Reggie Miller, even if it does come with the occasion. Like there was a stretch where Oklahoma City was doubling Şengün post-ups, right. And he's like, Şengün's letting him off the hook. He needs to put him in the blender. And I'm like, he's literally getting double teamed, and he's making great passes out. So he's making the right read every single time. I don't know what you want him to do, but like, yeah, there's something there. Speaking of nostalgia, there's something nostalgic about watching a big NBA game and having Reggie Miller in the background saying Reggie Miller things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was a really good pairing with Jamal Crawford, who is consistently just giving smart insight the entire time. It's like a fun little two players, but very different styles, contrast. I thought that broadcast team specifically was really good. The second one was okay. I think Grant Hill is okay on the broadcast. Yeah. Noah Eagle sounds exactly like his dad, though. It's great.
Yeah, he does. It's kind of creepy, but he's great at it. He understands the assignment.
Absolutely. All right, we'll do a couple of Rockets questions, or a couple questions from that game, and a couple questions from the late game, and then we'll get out of here. First question is about Reed Sheppard. What did you think of his performance tonight, and do you think he can be maybe not the whole answer, but at least part of the answer for the Rockets and their ball handling situation?
So I feel like Reed did some good tonight. I thought he made some good decisions coming off of action. There was a certain amount of like with KD being denied the basketball, they kind of needed someone to confidently step into some shots. And like, yeah, he didn't shoot the ball efficiently, but he got to the foul line a couple times and he hit that one little tough kind of jumper along the right baseline, like in the second half. Like he kind of manufactured some points. I thought that I was more impressed with him defensively in preseason than I was in tonight's game. I thought he looked physically overwhelmed at the point of attack a few times. He gave up like 5 or 6 pretty bad straight line drives. I have a hard time with Reed because I texted Sam Vecini the other day because I was like, hey man, like I just don't see it with Reed. Like what's going on? Like I see a guy that can guard a little bit, who like competes and flies around in rotation and can make plays. I see a guy who can shoot, but I don't see like this dynamic on ball player. And Sam was like, trust me. He's like, he can really shoot. So like, wait till he figures that out. That'll be fine. And he can do better defensively than he's shown. And I trust Sam. Like Sam scouted Reed to a much greater extent than I did when he was a younger player. But I will admit that like, I don't see the same like crazy upside that a lot of some of the NBA hipsters talk about with Reed Shepherd. And I just like, and I'm not just, I like literally out there in the entire world, there's a ton of Reed Shepherd buzz. It's like kind of all you can see is everyone's like Reed Shepherd this, Reed Shepherd that. And like, he certainly has potential, but I haven't really seen that bear out at the NBA level yet. I don't look at him as a solution to their ball handling problems, but I've been wrong before. So not going to brag.
I thought the ball handling and the defense were pretty underwhelming. It does seem like he can be a pretty lights out shooter, and I thought he was good coming off of action. He was not able to solve the Thunder ball pressure. I'll say that. And they're the best ball pressure team in the league. So it's not like we should write him off because of that, but he did not have the chops for it tonight.
It's a hell of a first test for Houston's offense.
For sure. Like it's he gets thrown into like the worst situation possible.
And they almost won.
Next question. Do you feel like OKC struggling today was sort of a championship hangover ring night situation, or do you feel like the lack of J-Dub is going to be sort of an issue for them until he comes back?
I think that the book is out on how to guard Oklahoma City in general from the postseason, which is throw a bunch of zone at them. And like, here's the thing with the zone, like, because like there's this idea that like, oh, well, they got great looks, they're just going to go in. One of the things that happens with zone is it changes the rhythm of the game. And it just feels like very different basketball than what you're accustomed to playing. Now, this could go the other direction. If you zone Oklahoma City too much, these guys are just going to get good at it. And then it's going to become a problem. And for the record, they had some success against the zone in the postseason as the series went longer. But in general, I think we're going to see a lot of double teaming and blitzing of Shai, a lot of packing the paint on his drives, a lot of zone, and a lot of just daring everybody else to beat them while J-Dub's out. And I mean, I'd argue that's how teams are going to guard him even when J-Dub is there, right? Now, like, I thought in the first half, Houston actually did a really nice job pressuring them, and most of their looks were pretty rushed and contested. In the second half, I thought they missed some really good looks, and that's where you can't really fault the process. Like, it's kind of like those above the break threes off the wing, and Chet and Kason both missed some of those too, in addition to making them. But like, you kind of have to take them. Like, if you're not taking them, then you're basically asking Shai to just rescue you with shot making the entire game, and that's too much to ask. At a certain point, the defensive coverage is designed to concede that shot, and you have to take it. And you've got the players who can make them, and to their credit, they hit the ones they needed late.
Last question on this game. Thoughts on the missed timeout call?
KD got away with one. I mean, it was pretty clear. I mean, it was one of those things where, like, as a basketball fan, you have to be happy they didn't call it, because what a lame ass way to end that game if they end that with KD getting a technical for the timeout. So, like, I wasn't complaining as a fan, but watching the game, I was like, yeah, KD got away with one right there.
And the basketball gods shined down and gave OKC a 1-point win.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. On a foul. There you go.
Exactly. All right, we'll take a couple questions from the late game. Early on, and with an opponent like the Lakers, but do you think this type of Warriors performance can carry over against higher quality competition, specifically with Denver on Thursday?
So Denver is actually kind of a similar matchup to the Lakers in the sense that they have a big that Golden State can attack in space, and they're generally faster. I think the Warriors are faster than Denver. I texted you this, and it's like, it's not a skepticism necessarily about the Warriors. It's just like the reality of this job. Like, I personally would like to see Golden State try to score against a faster defense, just to kind of get a better evaluation of like Jimmy and Jonathan Kuminga. Like, guess what? What happens when you play against a faster defense? Those reads get harder. Those reads get more difficult to make, right? And the shots each get a little bit tougher to make as you're rushed and you're a little bit out of rhythm, right? So, like, I do want to see what it looks like against tougher competition, but like, how could you not be enthused? I mean, like, the Lakers, the Lakers are behind schedule. No one's debating that. And obviously not having LeBron is a problem, but there's still some talent on that team. And like, I thought like, aside from, like, do you agree with me that had Luka not gone nuclear, they win that game by 30? Like, I thought they thoroughly outclassed the Lakers.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah, like Luka, like, straight up turned a double-digit deficit into a tie game before the half with that crazy haymaker he threw at the end of the second quarter. And like, I just thought, here's the thing. All you hope to see from a team on opening night is for them to come out and play well. And they came out and beat the shit out of the Lakers. So like, I couldn't see that as anything other than a positive. But I think Denver I think Denver is a matchup that favors Golden State athletically and isn't necessarily a true test of their offense. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And I think, I don't expect Jimmy Butler to have this kind of scoring performance every single night, but Steph Curry is also going to shoot the ball a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely.
He had a pretty below his standards. He had the dagger. He had a pretty below his standard shooting performance. So I think it's all going to kind of normalize, and I expect him to be pretty darn good in the regular season if they can stay healthy, which has been the big question. That said, they are very deep. I could not stop texting you during the game. I forgot about Moses Moody somehow, who is who will be back imminently, it seems like.
They just have every year they just have like 13, 14 dudes. Like in this Will Richards, the next guy in this line, but it's like every year they find dudes who know how to play basketball in their system. And it is a testament to their culture. And I've been really fascinated by this with teams like Golden State and like Indiana and Boston and Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City's like this too. They keep finding dudes that just can play in their system. AJ Mitchell today. Like they like these really smart organizations, they can find dudes on the margins in a way that other teams can't.
Yeah, I think this being able to self-analyze and know who you are is just so valuable. These teams know exactly who they are, what they want to do on both sides of the ball, and they know exactly. And so it makes it a lot easier to find players who fit in that, as opposed to team when you're kind of just like, who are we? What are we trying to do? Do we know what we want to do? X, Y, and Z, Last question for the night. Jonathan Kuminga obviously had a very good game, at least in the second half. Do you think he should be an automatic starter going forward, or at least, in the short term, or do you think it should be a sort of a matchup to matchup, night to night decision?
So actually, I want you, before I give my take here, I want you to give your take on the politically smart way to go about this. I thought you made a good point when you were texting me about it.
Yeah. When the report today was that he was going to start, my immediate reaction was that I think politically for the Warriors and for Steve Kerr, it's the right move to start him right away and for at least a couple weeks, because either, hopefully for them, it goes like it went tonight and he looks not like a superstar maybe, but like he can certainly be productive and good in a lineup with Jimmy, Dre, and Steph, which was sort of the big question. And you're hoping that can continue. And so if it does, great. You feel like you maybe have something, you can keep him, or his trade value is boosted and you can go get something more than you've been offered to this point. And then if it goes poorly, you can say, hey, we held up our end of the bargain. We started the guy for 2 weeks. We gave him 20 games or whatever as a starter. What do you want us to do? He doesn't look good. I think there's two sides of that coin, but I think politically and just from a game theory perspective for the Warriors, it makes sense to give him a decent leash to start the season, just to sort of, because you're clearly good enough. Even if he had a bad game tonight, they're still going to win tonight. You're clearly good enough to stay afloat, even if he's not awesome. And so I would just keep starting him at least for the first couple of weeks.
I 100% agree with you. It's like couples counseling for them, in the sense it's like their one last hurrah. This is the last thing we're going to try. Here's the deal. Dead serious team, right. Championship caliber roster. We're putting you in with the starters. Show us what you got. And I think Steve's going to give him a little runway here. And if he continues to play like he did in the second half tonight, it just ends all of the discussion surrounding some of these other issues. They deployed him on the ball tonight, and he struggled with Luka, but Luka's Luka. And Luka specifically has some success against upright wings because he's just so much stronger than them. But they focus him in an on-ball role defensively, and then he actually does provide some of the firepower they need, the ability to attack a mismatch here and there, the ability to knock down a catch and shoot shot, to fly up the floor in transition. I thought the most encouraging part of that second half attack there was them kind of using him in 3-man action effectively. Basically saying we don't need you to be a satellite guy. We can use you as part of the weapon with which we unleash the Steph Curry attack. As far as going matchup to matchup, I think that's almost the worst thing you could do, because that could toy with his rhythm and toy with his confidence a little bit. I would just ride him out as the starter for a little while here and just see what he's got. And if we're 7-8 games into this and they're, 5-3 or 4-4, and Jonathan's been more bad than good, like then it's like you tried counseling and it didn't work, and that means it's time to break up. That like it's the last hurrah here. It's the last try, and like Steve Kerr's basically saying, like, dude, we're putting the ball 100% in your court here. Show us what you can do.
Yeah, and I thought he definitely had some moments that looked like the last couple seasons, and he definitely had some moments where I was like, oh, he would not have done that before. He had multiple attacks where normally once he gets in the paint, that he's going up.
Yeah,
and he's a pretty good finisher. He's pretty athletic, so I get why. But he threw a fast break alley-oop to Jimmy Butler in the first half. In the second half, he had a downhill drive that the big, I forget which big it was, came over and helped late, and he actually dumped it off to Al Horford in a pretty kind of funky manner. It was kind of not the easiest dump off pass. I was like, oh wow, that's definitely an attempt at a poster last season. And if you're a Warriors fan, if you were thinking about this negatively, like I might have been, you might have thought Jonathan Kuminga is trying to get his this year. He's going to go for that poster. And I was like, he played pretty soundly within the system most of the night, I thought.
Yeah, and he overcame some of his mistakes. Like he did try to like cock back a tip dunk for no reason, and like smoking up.
Kind of a crucial moment as the Lakers are making a run.
Yeah,
please just dunk the ball.
Yeah, like he had a couple of those moments, but like he just overcame them, and like I thought he was instrumental in that early third quarter run when they put the game away.
Definitely.
All right, guys, that's all we have for night one. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting us and supporting the show. We are going to be back tomorrow night live on YouTube. I'm going to rewatch these games tomorrow morning. I'll maybe bring some thoughts to the game or to the show tomorrow night. But we got a jam-packed slate tomorrow. I think we're closing with San Antonio versus Dallas. That's going to be a fun one. Wemby versus AD and that massive front line in Dallas. So lots of interesting basketball to get into tomorrow. And then we're live again after Denver Golden State on Thursday night. 3 straight lives to start the season. Again, as always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting us. We will see you tomorrow night.